Hello, and welcome back to Command Value 1. Despite horrible rumors spread by Overlord Shivak, the podcast is in fact not dead. We're just a week behind schedule because apparently Don and Jordan have con crud or something like that. But everyone's alive, most of us are well, and here we are. We're going to talk about Cincycon, we're going to talk about Gama, and maybe anything else new that might have come out. Don, anything interesting happened at Gama?
Nothing at all.
All right. Well, I'm glad we covered that. We should just move on to game recaps.
Moving on. Next topic.
No, obviously we showed off the Behemoth.
Fucking Behemoths.
Yeah, Behemoth. So it's that's the first one we're showing. So we'll go over Gen Con in general, and then we'll kind of give Behemoth its own spotlight.
Holy shit, we're going to go over Gen Con already?
We're past Gen Con?
I'm in Gamma. We'll go over Gamma in general. So,
year's been flying by, but geez.
Yeah. This is our first Gamma. Hawk did Gammas in the past, but...
why don't you back up for... And I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably don't know exactly what the Gamma Trade Show is, and explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, I was going to.
Okay.
So Gamma Trade Show is an industry show only. It's for game manufacturers,
store owners, distributors, and production people. So if you're producing tokens, anything game related, models, tokens, whatever, on the manufacturing side, then you will also want to be there. We talked to many people. So it's definitely a way different dynamic than a regular con, obviously. We talked to lots of store owners and how they can get our product better, and then we talked to more distributors and trying to get stuff going with that.
This is legitimately that effort to improve U.S. distribution that a lot of people ask for.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, this whole point of being at this show is to open up a lot of these barriers we've been kind of suffering from. And hopefully we'll see if the fruit of our labors comes to pass here in the next coming weeks or so. So, but anyway, it's our first year there. We didn't really know what to expect, so we brought kind of a little bit of everything to show off. Because the Gamma Trade Show is not, it's also board game players and owners and all that kind of stuff. So it's not just like a miniatures thing.
It's an all things gaming kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So even though a fair amount of people knew who we were, there was also a good amount of people who never heard of us. So you got to pitch your stuff to them. So we showed off Carnivale, and we showed off Rumble Slam on the demo tables, get people a taste of those games. And so, yeah, it was real interesting. It was definitely a lot more less trying to get people to buy, although that was a goal too, to take orders, but more just a recognition of our company and what our products are. So, yeah.
Awesome.
That was Gamma, and it was in Reno, which I'd never been to, and I really didn't see any of Reno because I literally went to this place, and we were there for, 4 or 5 days. I didn't leave the whole time.
I mean,
oh, the woes of cons.
After just being in Vegas, do you really think you would have been impressed by Reno anyway?
I don't know. I mean, I would have liked to have seen the strip. I probably should have made the effort to get to the actual strip because we weren't on the direct strip that they have there. Although I'm sure it wouldn't have been as impressive as Vegas.
Probably cheaper, though.
Not really. Surprisingly, not that much cheaper. But yeah, they had some decent restaurants there, so I wasn't left wanting anything, I guess I would say. And in fact, there were some really bad storms that hit the U.S. while I was there, so.
You weren't left wanting, but you know who is left wanting? The fan base, Don. I'm going to segue right into what's new.
Yep.
And I'm just gonna say that I need a Behemoth now, and it's safe to say that anyone listening to this is probably going to listen to this because I'm going to tag that we talk about Behemoths here, and basically just tell us everything you're allowed to tell us without us prodding you.
So right now, obviously you saw the PHR Behemoth. Hopefully you've seen it. If not, go to the TT Combat
I made a movie of it.
Yeah, and they already made a movie of it. There's a cute little video where they show the initial one was the 2-up or the 30 mil Ares, and right away you're like, wow, that thing's big right next to it. But then they actually replace it with the standard Ares, and then you realize, oh, this thing is much bigger than I thought. So
yeah, behemoth is the appropriate word.
Yeah, so every faction is going to get these. Currently, the only thing I'm allowed to divulge is that every faction will get them, and we will initially have 2 variants for each faction.
Are they all going to be like giant combat robots of death? Or
they will all be in and around that size. I'm not going to say what. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to reveal too much. Kind of like it's like a Christmas opening your presents kind of a thing. If I tell you what's in the box, then
so have you seen all of them, Don?
Huh?
Have you seen all of them?
I have not seen all of them physically. I know what the renders look like though.
So since you are the only one of the 3 of us that actually, you had one in hand at Gama, right?
Yes, we had one there.
So are you allowed to divulge how big it was?
It was as big as it showed in the video. We had the size comparison with the littler model, the regular Ares.
I think you said on Facebook that the footprint was how big it was, like footprint wise, is comparable.
The way that the studio painter had it, the footprint was currently about the size of the Thunderstorm Custom, but it was a little more upright than you might want to model it, so it can be a little more squat than what you see.
So it's very much a lot taller, but how far it spreads on the table.
It depends on how you do the feet, yeah. So the way you do the legs and the feet kind of determine how tall or whatever.
So how tall are these things?
I didn't get a measuring stick out to look at it,
but they're basically buildings.
Yeah, so I mean, imagine a building walking around your table.
Do you have any stats for these yet?
Yeah, so we've been all play testing these. This has been the hardest thing so far to play test.
How big? I mean, how? Okay, so a Hades is 9 points, right? This thing's easily like 3 Hades. 8 points, 8 hull.
I'm not getting specific stats here, but I will say that they will be scary. So we're trying to go. What we want these things to be is the drop zone equivalent of the dreadnoughts. Scary, but not impossible to get rid of. Okay. And so these will be a point sink. So people who are going to be putting these on the table need to adjust around it like the way you would adjust around a dreadnought. So
okay, so while you saying that, so we know that dreadnoughts are a solid third of a list. Point cost, I mean, is that what we're going to be looking at point cost wise with these things? 500 points?
I'm not going to say exactly how many points there are, but I will say that
you're not going to say any.
I will say we are opening the tournament points to allow people to have these more prevalent on the table.
So I know when the video came out, it was either Lewis or Louie or someone made the comment that there will be more information at Salute, which is in April, right?
Yes, and I'm hoping to have at least the PHR Behemoth to show off at Adepticon next week. I was informed that I might have some other new goodies coming my way to show off as well.
Picture it didn't happen, Don.
I don't have it yet, so I can't even take pictures.
I mean, from Adepticon, I'm not expecting you to spoil us
early,
but
if anything new shows up there, you'll be getting many pictures, I'm sure.
Woohoo!
So we'll see what they send me and what I'm allowed to show off.
So, I mean, I know Lewis has made comments that he's stitching together Battle for Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten information that a lot of the stat lines are going to be digital for Drop Zone. Are we close
to Battle for Earth release?
Yeah, are we close to seeing the Battle for Earth and the second edition and these behemoths?
So we can't give exact dates because we're still finishing up the editing and all that kind of stuff. Still a little bit of playtesting to finish up. Obviously, these behemoths need to be good out of the gate, otherwise they're going to be, not be getting it used very often. So it's really, really hard to kind of get these into the position they need to be. But anyway, so, and then of course you go to the printers, and who knows what happens at the printers. Maybe a machine dies on them and you can't control those things. So right now I would say that we are looking for a lofty goal of hopefully end of second quarter.
Fiscal second, actual.
Fiscal quarter, whatever is usually 4 quarters in the business model.
Yeah, I fiscal quarters screw me up, so I have no idea what month that actually means.
Well, a fiscal year depends on the company. It could start on any given date.
My fiscal year starts in July, so I'm already thrown off.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna go for a general starting in January.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can't.
So we're hoping end of June.
Yeah, we can't give an exact date on these things at all because obviously a lot of factors go into these.
Hopefully between UK Games Expo and Gen Con.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we want these to hit like a big con. So I mean,
Origins Game Fair is what, the 4th largest con in the world. I'm just saying that's
battling between 3rd and 4th with UK Games Expo, which are right next to each other, by the way. So who knows if maybe something new shows up at one of those 2 shows.
Well, you don't need to convince me to take my money. Don, how many guns are on that PHR Behemoth? I'm just going to go right back to it. There's 2 giant railguns on that thing. There's 2 giant rotary cannons on that thing.
Yes.
There's 2 what look like Hades chin guns on that thing.
Yep.
There's 2 like LRM 20 packs on each side of that thing. There's also what looks like tactical nukes on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do these things fit? You're not going to be able to answer this question. I'm trying to ask you for stats, and you're not going to give them to me.
Are you trying to get more information out of me?
Yeah. If I don't try, people are going to be like, could you ask them this?
Yeah. So like I said, it's really difficult to get these to, because the goal is that they have to be as scary, as close to as scary as they look in game. Because if you have something like that and it shoots 12 inches away, that's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? So you got to take those things into consideration, but you also can't have it like blowing up buildings in a single turn, because then you're completely destroying the objectives and ruining the game at that point. So and then you also have to take into consideration too that they're going to be battling against other behemoths, so they have to be at least strong enough to tackle those things.
Okay. Overlord Shivak won't forgive me if I don't ask, and I've already seen it pop up in the group a handful of times. You're saying every faction is getting at least one of these behemoths, right?
Yes.
Is the Scourges a kaiju?
I'm not saying. I will let everybody be surprised as we reveal these things. Because
what if I say, convincingly that the Scourges is a kaiju, but you won't confirm or deny that, so I can falsely say the Scourge are getting Godzilla?
I'm not nodding either way. Like I said, I want people to enjoy these as they get revealed.
You're no fun.
Yes, I know. Stop trying to spoil Christmas for everybody, Derek. So
it's not really spoiling Christmas. It's making today better.
So obviously that was our quote unquote big reveal for second edition, is that we have these behemoths coming into play.
So let me ask you this. I'll get information out of you one way or another here. When we spoke to Dave and he said that 90% of the stuff he had done hadn't been seen, he wasn't counting like a behemoth as like 15% of what he hasn't done or what he's done, right? I mean, we're still getting this deluge of units that he was hinting at.
Correct. Yes. So
we're getting a shit ton of units plus behemoths.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, my soul is happy, but my wallet is sad.
Yeah. So essentially, what we're doing,
it's everything we're supposed to have gotten over the last 3 years of Drop Zone at once.
Right. So just to kind of explain the delays and stuff like that have happened since, because a lot of people have been.
Please do, because there's not a day that goes by that. Okay, that's a lie, but it's tiresome to see the negativity that comes from they haven't released anything, and So please do explain the delays so that we can say at this timestamp, Don explains why we haven't seen Drop Zone stuff in so long.
Right. So I can't. So the last year of Hawk, Drop Zone didn't get much love because Dave was both having to deal with a lot of issues that ended up to the demise of the company, in addition to being the sole designer for the game. So that's why there was that huge dead space there, up to and including not even getting all of Phase 2 units out. All right, TT Comet buys a company. They get the rest of the Phase 2 stuff out. However, we are committed to a second edition Drop Zone right away because Hawk has already put the legwork into it and announced it and all that stuff, so people are expecting it. Having discussed what was going to be in that book, it felt really like it was going to fall really flat. It was not going to be like second edition, you know? It was just going to be like a book and maybe a couple units, and it just wasn't going to be all that exciting. So that's why we reverted and pulled back on it and stretched out the time length to essentially set up a much more impressive book, also including the first Drop Fleet expansion. And more or less, what we're looking at is about 18 months worth of releases once this book hits. So we want there to be not just the book and some units and then it sits dead for another year. We want longevity out of this expansion, and then during that time frame, it leads us up to whatever is next for both games. So essentially, the delay kind of then makes sure that the future doesn't have any delays.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, I'm partially distracted by whatever animal Jordan is skinning in the background.
Sorry, I got the sniffles.
So, so hopefully when people hear this, they'll feel comfort in knowing that, you know, we weren't just sitting on our butts for the whole time. I mean, Dave and me and my playtest group and the office have all been building up to over a year's worth of releases out of this whole expansion and stuff like that. So that then they can get some comfort time to then make sure there's continuous releases from here on out.
And one of the things I kind of I was having a conversation with someone the other day on Facebook, and the argument was that the game is dead because there hasn't been any releases in 3 years. And I was like, well, that's not true because Famous Commanders have come out in the last 3 years. Well, that doesn't matter because those were in Phase 2. Those aren't new releases. But the models are new, and there's beta rules for them, so that's new. There's fauna that's come out. Doesn't matter. So it just gets exhausting to have those conversations. But I made the comment, I'm like, well, you have TT that took over this company, and the first thing they did was finish the Kickstarter.
Right, yeah. That was huge enough alone to fulfill that Kickstarter.
Right.
Really
and on top of that, they've released a couple of different Rumble Sim expansions. And they finished the Carnivale Kickstarter. And they still released Dreadnoughts and Destroyers for Fleet.
Yeah.
All the while building to this Drop Zone thing. And the argument that I got back was that doesn't matter. Those are other games. That's not this game. And I'm thinking, Jesus, how does that not matter? This is one company. And this isn't GW. This isn't even Warlord. TT's what, 25 dudes?
I mean, the company as a whole is a little bigger than that because it has different subsets of the company. But it's the same crew working on all these games. So that's why there can't be multiple releases being worked on at once. But, I mean, yeah, essentially anyways, it all does bottleneck a little bit. So we do have things being developed here and there for the next releases, but the end game is all, you know, it has to look good. It can't just whip these things out there. And if anybody has seen the Carnivale rulebook, and I encourage anybody to come up to our booth and look at the rulebook to see the quality that you're going to get out of Battle for Earth. This book is really impressive. The artwork in it feels like a 50-pound book when you pick it up. You're like, oh my God.
Battle for Earth or Carnivale?
Carnivale book. So, I mean, just the layout and everything, and it's a really, really, really impressive book, for sure. So, that's what we're going to get. And Hawk did a good book. All their books were good too, I thought. And this kind of takes it up even a little bit more of a notch than what you saw out of even like Phase 2. So, what does that mean to everybody? It means that quality takes time. It means building up. It means building up a guaranteed release schedule of over a year takes time.
So, are we talking about monthly releases? Or are we talking about quarterly releases? When you say,
I don't have a for sure like this will be released here and there, but at whatever the office deems 18 months worth of releases at whatever release rate that they have. Consistent, I will say. Not every week, but consistent,
that'll be a nice change of pace regardless.
Right, exactly. Even if it's every other month or something like that, or every 3 months, that's still, I mean, how many games are you going to get in, even if it's 3 months down the road before something new comes out,
Right.
With what you just got, so.
Oh my God, Jordan, are you rubbing your beard on your microphone?
No. That scraping is not me.
I think that's you, Derek.
It can't be. I'm not moving.
Plus, I don't hear anything right now.
I'm muting my mic when I'm not talking.
I don't hear anything right now. Oh well. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the Behemoths and kind of the spiel of why things have been felt like they were delayed. But so now that you should essentially be seeing more consistent reveals from here until the release of the book. So we actually have enough stuff to start revealing between now and the release of the book. So, I don't know what their actual reveal schedule is like. And like I said, I might have some more new toys next week to show off at a Adepticon. I wouldn't put it past them to not miss a big show like that and show something cool. Even though the Behemoths was just shown, that was a Gama release show thing. And then maybe Adepticon will get something cool. And, we'll move forward from there. And then also the release schedule for the other games is going to be pretty heavy too, so people need to take that into consideration as well. So we already have expansions and new superstars for Rumble Slam in the works right now. Carnivale expansions are already actually hitting the shelves, and new stuff is already being worked on. So it's a continuous flow, and certainly was a little bit of a challenge to fit. I mean, you have four fully supported games needing releases along with, all the scenery and all that stuff. So, all right, let's go to game recaps then. We'll move on here. We're a little late on this topic.
Oh, we're only 23 minutes in. We're fine. But let's get on the game.
We got more good stuff to talk about, so.
We do. So we all went to Cincycon down in Cincinnati. We hung out at Jordan's mold-infested swamp basement.
It was drained by the time he got here.
We played some Zombicide, and then you guys went and effectively played some Drop Zone. And I showed up and got curb stomped.
We'll not speak of what happened to you.
Oh, no. I mean, we'll speak at length of what happened to me because it's comedic. I got throttled fiercely.
You lost all your games, but I got beat the worst in any particular game.
I'd like to congratulate our TO on successfully not being the free game.
Yeah, I gave John a little shit for that. I'm like, you're supposed to be the ringer. You're not supposed to come in first in your own tournament.
Well, I kind of handed that one to him after the first game.
That was fun though. I got to bring Scott along with us. That was Scott's first time playing at 1,500 points. So he was playing Scourge, and he beat me round one because I was an idiot and decided to move my Phobos and as opposed to leave them where I could shoot down his transport. But that is what it is. I lost round two to Jordan because 20 dudes with rocket launchers can shoot them in a bus, and it does not kill them.
Though that was grand.
You did it to me, and all I could do was laugh maniacally or table flip you, and I wasn't going to be the guy to table flip you. So, and I don't know what I did to suck so hard against Don. But I lost to him too.
Yeah, I went with an interesting list. I wanted to try something interesting. I wanted to see how a bulk of new things can perform well. So I actually went with 4 runs of the Archangel Pathfinder Squadron.
Oh God, those pricks. I mean,
And then I went with 2 squads of 4, or groups, I should say, two groups of 4 attack ATVs coming out of drills. Each got one of their own Model 109 drills. And essentially, I was trying to see how much havoc can I wreak in the backfield with the attack ATVs, and how effective more than 2 or 3 attack runs can be, because the Archangel Pathfinders are pretty deadly.
well, let me say, there's a moment in game 2 and game 3 where I say, I look to the white sphere and I just cry, "What the fuck?" And and the first one I mentioned earlier was when Jordan rolls a battle bus up on my Nemesis with, I think, 19 resistance fighters left in it, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they all fire their RPGs from the vent on the battle bus and end up doing 2 energy 13 and an energy 11 hit to my Nemesis and essentially one-shotting it. So, but the others, when Don sends an Archangel run, he blows up my Triton, so the objective lands on the ground. And I send another Triton to pick up those infantry, and he sends another attack run and blows it up, and the guys end up on the ground again, and they're trying to run away. And he sends another attack run, literally just to strafing run a base of Immortals, so they drop the objective. I was like, oh my God, you're a monster.
Hey man, they had the objective. I had to go for it.
It's just like, oh my God, I've never had an attack run wasted on infantry before.
Yeah, but you did waste 3 of my attack runs trying to get that objective on the ground now.
I still managed to pick it up. My Phobos got back to pick it up, but I couldn't get to my extraction point.
Yeah. Not without effort, though. I applaud you on keeping on top of it.
Well, and I had taken a Nemesis. Well, because there were beta stats released for the Nemesis, where it gained 2 inches of movement and it gained an alt fire with its laser cannon. So I wanted to try it out because my original build for that list was 2 Hades and a Tiamat. And it was fun. It was fun getting Nemesis back on the table. But whenever I think you go with 2 Type 4 super heavies like that, as Jordan says, you're pretty much limiting what you can do. It's those 2 units or nothing.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of pressure on those 2 units to really do a lot of work for you. Otherwise, you're falling behind the 8 ball there.
Right, and I mean, you've met my dice.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah.
Right.
So while they can certainly put out a lot of punishment, especially with the new alt fire on the Nemesis, which gives them a strafe option. It's still one of those things where placement is really, really huge for those guys.
5 energy 10 shots at 24 inches is nice.
Not nice enough for Aaron, apparently. He keeps complaining about it.
He doesn't understand the shortened range. That doesn't bother me as much. I like having the option. I do think it's still probably missing something, but the only reason I can say that is because we have the Tiamat at the same point cost and doesn't need a transport, and it's a really solid unit.
Yeah, it's going to get a point increase. Tiamat is by the end of its cycle here.
Well, that makes it less desirable, but no, it's necessary. It's the Tiamat is a fantastic unit. If you haven't tried it out as a PHR player, it's a great command unit. I've seen people go as far as to call it game breaking. I don't think that it is. It's certainly you have to make an effort to compensate for it, but that's just because it's a really powerful air unit. And I think if you're used to playing against Scourge, there's nothing overly threatening about seeing a Tiamat come on table because you're used to dealing with big mean flyers like that.
Right.
Well,
or Shoutari even.
It doesn't die as easy as Scourge flyers, though.
This is true, but I think the Desolator in version 2 has gotten quite the work over. It's a pretty menacing unit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I saw this weekend that the UCM standard Phoenix is no slouch when your AA misses it.
Right.
How's that Armor 6 treating you there, Jordan?
We didn't much have to the armor values for my UCM flyers in that game against Derek last weekend really didn't come into play that much because his Phobos weren't around long enough to do anything. So
Okay, how did you smoke the Phobos so quick?
So very
Concentrated fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went straight after him after they deployed.
Okay.
A little bit of initiative luck. He did get one good round of firing that they didn't roll incredibly well.
Damn it, there.
Yeah, when my dice roll at least like average, I had a pretty effective round of shooting because my command group was a Zeus and 3 Odins on a Nord.
Well, I was activation order. I was pretty effective in forcing you to reaction fire and waste the accuracy.
Yeah,
which did help.
I had run a triple Nord list, so I had a Zeus and 3 Odins on a Nord, and then I had 2 Phobos, and Ares and a Menshit on a Nord each. And then it was a bunch of Immortals and some Valkyrie. And I was telling Jordan after it was all said and done, as much as I love the Nord, that's when he was like, you use too many big units and you pigeonhole yourself. Because I would have been better served by bringing a pair of Poseidon so I could bring some extra AA.
That's one, because I think Drop Zone, out of pretty much any game I played, does the best at regulating things. Like, you can't really get away with spamming anything, like, a lot. Not only just the force organization, but also you really are lacking somewhere on the table if you go too much one way or the other. Mm-hmm. You know, and it makes it really cool.
So it was a weird game in that the UCM actually outkilled the PHR, but it wasn't. We both killed each other a lot.
I was really surprised that there was a 200-point difference in our kill point totals at the end because I thought I had wiped a lot more off the table than I had.
Well, there was a lot more infantry that I had kind of hidden towards the back, and I had a lot more infantry. And I think that kind of helped me outflank you.
Plus, it's not exactly a 1-for-1 points cost between UCM and PHR. So even though it looks like you killed more, you're not actually racking up as many points per unit.
I will say I was proud of those Valkyrie that managed to almost wipe out your Praetorians.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that was thanks in part.
I had a stand firm card, so you went from a 4 up to a 5 up to wound them.
Oh, no.
So that gave me a nice win because it was still 30 dice versus 20 dice. But
that was I was playing with a handicap in that I had a UCM deck and you had a PHR deck.
Yeah, hoping to alleviate that issue.
I was gonna say, hopefully that's another version 2 fixed.
Yeah, it'll be
Not all the factions have that equivalent of that stand firm card, which is one of those few cards that I think can be very game breaking.
Yeah, in the right situation, of course.
Right.
And just so everybody's not confused, since we kind of rambled into your guys' game, this is a game you guys played last weekend, not since Cincycon.
Yeah. No. Actually, there is a video battle report on this, but it's one I did for Paint All the Minis.
Okay.
I'll share a link for that once they release that episode. So.
Okay, so we'll back to Cincycon since we kind of veered off.
Sorry.
So Jordan ended up taking...
I have no fond memories of Cincycon. You guys talk about that.
I'll talk about my stuff, and then Jordan can talk about his stuff. Mine's pretty clean and simple. I kind of already talked about the units that I bought. So my list, when I put it together, I was like, this is going to do really well or really crap, and it went more the crap route. I ended up with a 0-20 game against John on the first game, and so obviously I went away with no points at all. And then second game against Aaron, I got all of 1 victory point. And then I somehow beat Derek. So went firmly in last place because we were using the old 20-point system. It's better than the one I'm working on right now for the new tournament points. So yeah, that's how I ended up in last place, even though Derek lost all his games and I actually won one.
I lost all my games, not as convincingly, I guess, as you lost your 2 games. I was competitive in all of my games.
Not enough.
I think Aaron described it as yeoman-like suffering. I just rode all the way through.
Sure.
But you had fun, and you probably racked up the most kill points, right?
I don't remember. I mean, I normally do kill stuff.
I think that's actually why I ended up in last and you didn't, because you had more kill points than me.
I do kill things.
I think that we were tied.
I drink and I kill things.
So Jordan, you got yourself a nice little second place?
Yeah, I mean, officially second, unofficially third, since our tournament ringer had a fairly successful weekend. Which it's that weird balance. Do you give the person a real game, or is the luck of the draw? Oh, I'm playing the TO, so I get a gimme game. I mean, what's fair, what's not?
No, John played fair. I
Right.
mean, my loss was just because my list couldn't.
Mhm.
I couldn't do anything against the Sheltari. Like I couldn't even.
Right.
My attack ATVs couldn't even kill bases of infantry because of passive saves. So that was
Right.
it. Really shut them down. So
I really think it's who you're playing to.
Passive saves and armor 4.
right, yeah, it was a bane to them.
So I tried to make my list wasn't too crazy. I think I had a Strikehawk in there. I had a Pizarro in there. The Pizarro was my heavy anti-tank unit. Then I had a couple pairs of Zhukovs. I had tried the Kraken that had the battle bus that so kindly rocketed Derek's nemesis.
Special place in hell for you.
I was trying to be a little goofy, but I think it's a viable tactic of sneaking 2 attack ATVs on with the battle bus with the infantry, because it's a weird thing you can do now. So I don't know that the attack ATVs, I think, are a really good unit now. But if there's only 2 of them, I don't think they're incredibly strong anymore.
I think a squad of 3 is the sweet spot for that. So obviously, I went with 8 bases of those, and because of their point costs, they can't hold their own at that point cost. But I think a squad of 3 is going to be really effective with those guys.
Yeah, they just didn't seem to. There wasn't enough of them to last, and there wasn't enough of them to pack as much of a punch anymore. I know originally they had quite a bit more flame shots, which was way too much. But if you're only bringing a pair of them, it doesn't pack quite the punch that they had before. So
yeah, their effectiveness definitely goes up and down depending on what they're playing again. I mean, that's any unit really, I guess, but yeah, it definitely does.
Well, going forward too, if I'm splitting a Kraken like that, maybe that might be more effective with the Scout ATVs.
Yeah, those are still also really cool to play. Scout only needs a couple, so sharing a Kraken with a couple of attack ATVs is good for them.
So I played Aaron first round. We played it out to a draw. It was pretty tight through most of the game. He had an objective advantage, and I think I snuck a critical location through. I held on to it the last few turns and squeaked out a draw that I probably shouldn't have gotten. But then second game, we already heard Derek talk a little about where I
special hell.
Yeah. Well, not only did I rocket launcher your nemesis to death, which I had pinged down with a few other things prior to that, by the way. But I did turn around and one-shot your Hades with the thunderstorm the next turn.
I also one-shotted your Nemesis with the Thunder Custom as well. That seemed to be the theme of your weekend there, Derek.
That pretty much is my weekend in a nutshell, to be honest, guys. I don't think I'm going to Cincycon next year. If I do, it's nothing above 2 DP.
Play somebody different, man. Stop playing PHR.
And then
stop playing Resistance.
I was a bad opponent my third game because I was playing Scott, and the game was decided probably turn 4. But
Scott listens to the podcast, you dick.
Oh no, he knew exactly what I was doing by the end. Because he even asked while we were going through it. It was like, do we have to keep playing? You already won. I was like, well, I'm trying to catch Aaron, so I got to see how much I can kill you. Sadly, and I was like, oh, well, I understand. It didn't scare him away, so I don't feel as bad.
Yeah, it's one of those insufferable parts of the game where you've lost quite early on. And it's also a rare thing for the game, though. It's not that often that you're like, yeah, I've totally lost this game.
Well,
I mean, you don't play like me then.
I think it's part of the old scoring system too. The swing from kill point differential, it doesn't help gamesmanship much, and I think the new system that you're working on is not quite as bad for that.
It's a friendlier system at the end of the day.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It makes playing that game out matter to both sides, because you could lose the game but still gain something from being killy.
Yeah, but on both ends too. It's not one of the, because the way that the 20-0 system works is that you look at the difference between the two, and the winner gets the points if they're higher than you in kill points, potentially anyway.
Right.
So at least in the new edition, you both are going to get the points. So it behooves the both of you to try and squeak out the last few points.
I mean, there's still swings from a successful game, but it's not such a hard swing. You're not. If you just have a bad game and you didn't really deserve to be 20-0'd, but you got 20-0'd, you still have something to play for the next couple of games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're not walking away with a goose egg.
Right.
Which is quite awful. All right. I think that's pretty good. We could probably move on from Cincycon at that point.
Well, I want to move on to some hobby here.
We can do that.
I'm working on barricades. I'm actually working on barricades while we're talking. Putting a wash on the ones I've got started. I need to pretty up my table for Adepticon. I prettied up Jordan's tables for Adepticon.
Everybody's contributed to Derek's or Jordan's tables.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should be talking to Josh about the Drop Zone tournament, Jordan.
Right.
Damn slacker.
Oh, well.
Sorry, I didn't want to learn Photoshop or some other free version of it.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, that's what he did for me. It's just Photoshop the scenarios.
Build your entire tournament packet?
Well, no, the scenarios was on him, but the rest of it was a lot of that was on Don and Patrick, wasn't it?
No, Josh built the tournament packet.
No, Josh did all of that.
Oh, did he?
I did the fleet one. I hadn't gotten to the zone one yet because I was waiting to see how the scoring turned out for fleet before I went into the zone. So yeah, you can thank
Josh.
Pretty much all that to Josh. Yeah.
So I guess if you go to Adepticon and the Drop Zone tournament sucks, you can also thank Josh. So
that's as well. Yeah.
You got that going for you, Gordo.
Well, the crappy mission design is all going to be on me. So.
And since Josh was playing that tournament, he might want to have done a good job. There we go. Hobby for me. More Carnivale. Not a ton done because obviously our huge focus is getting this book done. But I did get some things put together and a little bit more painting done. I'm hoping to show off at least 3 fully painted starter sets at Adepticon. Just something in the case for the new game that we're trying to really get to take off. So that's been my hobby pretty much.
My hobby has just been complaining more about my basement flooding a foot and a half deep and ruining a bunch of my gaming stuff, and not wanting to set foot anywhere near my painting stuff. So
yeah, we were at Jordan's house, and he's not joking about his complaints. He lost a lot of shit on that. That was not good. All your Magic cards, a bunch of your books, all kinds of stuff got destroyed. It was really bad.
It's horrible too, because like you walk into the house and you have to walk through it, and it's like walking through a crime scene.
Right.
Yeah.
The rape and murder took place here.
All my old decks for Magic are still good, but all my cards I didn't have in decks, which is probably like 3,000 of them, are pretty much trash.
Those are some big boxes. There was a lot of stuff died in there.
It was like 6 board games, maybe 8, and about 50 or 60 books.
Right, yeah. It was bad.
50 or 60 novels, and then like 30 third edition D&D books. And 3 bookshelves are trashed.
Yeah. So if you want to start a GoFundMe for Jordan and his misery,
no. I'm okay.
Subscribe to our Patreon. Oh wait, we don't do that. Hey, we should start a Patreon.
Is that it's like a death knell?
Right.
No, I think we're good. If we can't afford the $60 a year this costs, then we need to not be doing it.
Yeah,
we go to a lot of the shows anyway, so
yeah, it's true. Yeah. So, community topics. All right, I'm looking forward to this one.
There are none. Erotica.
Yes, erotica.
Errata.
So one question. Actually, Derek, while I'm doing this, why don't you go back? Because there was a couple of things that were brought up in a recent thing that Josh just posted about our podcast dying or whatever. I think there was I think Josh had a couple of questions in it, didn't he?
Oh, I don't know. Let me wait a minute. I'll go check.
So, anyways,
it's not like I'm painting.
One of the things that
I'm trying to do something productive with this podcast.
I saw somebody post on there was the essentially the difference between the Michigan GT errata and the Adepticon errata for version 2 for Zone. There's not a lot of huge changes between those two. The Nemesis Altfire we kind of mentioned. A few other tweaks in there, nothing like super silly or anything like that. A couple of cool things that we're talking about though that we're currently working on. So we had this sort of collection of essentially assault transports that were sort of coming about naturally on their own. That being like the Tilt Rotor, the Skull Taker, Battle Bus, Neord. Essentially, transports that can hold their own once they've dumped whatever they brought on the table. And you definitely want to utilize them throughout the game once they don't need to transport things. So it just sort of made sense to kind of go with a different category of assault transport. And I'm not going to go into the full details of what that entails. But just know that it kind of opens up the gates a little bit for new units that are essentially dual purpose as both a transport and something that can handle their own. And since they aren't, you need to fill them with something to bring them. That kind of makes it a little bit unique in that they don't have to necessarily go into a specific category or even a specific battle group since they are basically a transport. So that kind of makes them more utility players as well throughout the game. Because you never know when somebody's going to use that Strike Hawk, because they can go activate with any group as long as it's not carrying anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it kind of cool. And the other thing we're toying around with is a low power countermeasures. So it was already essentially in the game with like the Ronin and the Samurai, where effectively energy 6 weapons and less, you apply the selected countermeasure to the units. Anything energy 7 and above, they have no countermeasures against because of the strength of the weapon. And that kind of opens up a few things to a few existing units and maybe some future units to where they'll be a bit more survivable. And this kind of goes along the lines of what we were talking about before, where we want infantry to be a bit more survivable out in the open, whether it be an infantry unit or even like just a small like samurai attack ATV type unit or something like that. And it gives them a little bit more, survivability on the open. Because before, essentially, we were just throwing evasion at whatever we wanted was going to be in the open, and we needed it to survive. And I just think that's kind of a little bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, I don't like vanilla answers to problems.
Right. So I think adding these low-power countermeasures in there, you can kind of tag those on units that need them at will,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of the two things we're talking about there. And I felt comfortable enough to kind of divulging into those because it sort of, they revolved around something that already existed. They just needed like a name and a face to the ability.
Well, I have found the thread we were talking about, if you're ready for me to delve into that.
Yeah.
So Josh said the show is dead. But then he just decided that he wanted it to be a content war with his questionable YouTube channel that may or may not be named after a Scourge drop fleet special ability, and it will remain unnamed because I'm not going to name drop him in this show.
Oh, come on. Josh is our biggest fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to respond to that.
You gonna hold out on him?
What? I'm not gonna say it. You guys can say it.
Yeah, it's Scald.
Oh, you did it. God, you're so weak. There you go,
will.
Josh. There's your brain jelly right there.
Yeah, Overlord Shivak is a fan of the podcast and a friend.
Josh does a lot of good stuff for us, and he's a very vital member of the Ohio community. So I talk shit about him, but he's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Also a huge supporter of the general community, even up to and including putting out some recent videos describing some stuff, and also up to and including the tabletop simulator drop fleet thing he has going on there.
Yeah, that's a labor of love, and I haven't had a chance to play with it, but I was there to listen to you guys play one night, just to heckle while I was working on some stuff. But I need to get on that.
It's cool. It's a little clumsy. It's not going to replace your tabletop version at all by any means, but it's good if you want to do like if you want to get like a half game in, or it's been really invaluable for us for playtesting. So that's been like a huge help for us.
Yeah. Jadar's wanting to hear our hot take on the rules updates before Adepticon. So there you go. We've done that pretty much, right?
Yep. That was what brought me to bring that up.
And then if I can show up to record, I am sorry, sir, I will not be at Adepticon. And Patrick has the answer for that right afterwards. My family kidnapped me, and now I work and play from my basement. That's 100% true. I only leave the house for a 10-minute walk every day. That's a lie. You've seen me. You know how fat I am. I don't walk unless I have to. But you just think that
you waddle. You waddle.
I waddle. I waddle to my car to go to work. He says that window would be the time to kidnap me. I shared that with my wife. She did not think it was funny.
The kidnapping or the
Yes, because Josh threatened to kidnap me as well. And while I appreciate people wanting to kidnap me, and I feel loved over it, Mrs. Seibert does not think it's funny at all. So she would not be amused if I were kidnapped, gentlemen. So if you're honestly going to kidnap me, please make sure that you start the GoFundMe for my legal fees.
Is it that she would miss you, or is it that she doesn't like the perception that you have to be kidnapped to have fun?
Oh, no, she knows I don't have to be kidnapped to have fun. I think she'd be more pissed that me going to Chicago for a weekend and leaving her and the children behind. That's the hardest part. I mean, she'd be totally down to like go to Indianapolis, I'm sure, during Gen Con, but she wouldn't want to go to Gen Con or for me to spend the whole time at Gen Con. She'd like want to go as a family.
Right.
So
yeah.
when I'm like, I want to go work the con for 5 days and ignore you guys, she's like, well, that's absolutely no fun for everybody else.
You can do it for 2.
Are you gonna put my family of 5 up for 2 days?
I don't know. Your boy could work the show.
So Ryan asked, he's like, is CV1 really dead? And Josh says, no, I was just joking. They're recording tonight, which we are. Here we are recording. Josh talks about creating fake news.
Scourge body shaming with Dave.
Right.
Yeah, that's really it. He asked if we're going to talk about that big PHR walker thing.
Yeah.
Yes. What else would we actually be getting together tonight to talk about, if not that?
Right, yep. And then a quick update on Dave. He is very steadily still working on stuff, new stuff for everybody. So not everybody gets worried about him, but he is putting everything he has into making sure that there's no drought for Fleeter Zone in the future. So.
And then there's just a big dead silence right there where it's like, really?
Really?
Oh, that's really it. That's the extent of that conversation. There's another post where he says something about you saying something about another faction of like pink fluffy unicorns. Space turtles. Giant turtles.
Yeah. Josh wants his turtle.
I don't know what the hell's wrong with that kid sometimes. No, that's really it.
Yep. Okay.
So clearly, Drop Zone's not dead, right?
Nope.
Fleet's not dead. My will to live is not yet dead. So
we're working on it, though.
We're working on it. So obviously, upcoming events next week is Adepticon. You and Jordan are going to be there. Josh is going to be there. Patrick's going to be there.
Yep, Aaron will be there.
Anyone from TT coming over, or is this all just US guys?
All just US. Myself and then my help.
Your harem of volunteers.
A harem of volunteers.
So
the Voluntold.
The Voluntold. We've got Josh running Fleet. We've got Patrick running a narrative Fleet event. We've got Jordan running Drop Zone there. What are we looking at? 17 players for Fleet, 15 for Zone?
Last I knew, it was 19 for Fleet and 15, but I was informed by one that's down to 14 for Zone.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, you got a hold of me too.
Well,
yeah, it is what it is.
The Drop Fleet table should have some nice space stations on it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, you do not have to come get those. Jordan took them with them. The Drop Zone table should have some lovely forests. So I can't be there, but I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
Would you like to know more? Service guarantees citizenship. Yes, Jordan.
I was going to talk about my general theme for Adepticon.
Yeah, it's an hour. No one cared.
Right. Well, oh well.
Hit it. No, lay it on me, man.
Please.
So I kind of wanted to do something a little weird and reward risky and aggressive play. So your extraction points or even some table edges if you want to get your objective off. I'm kind of flip-flopping stuff where you're going to have to go through some enemy territory. So there's trying to really reward you for doing something silly or for successfully protecting your units through some very dangerous territory. And that general theme is in all three of the scenarios for Adepticon.
So Jordan is all about play fast, play hard.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it when the tournament has a theme like that. I know that the last Adepticon tournament I did for Drop Fleet, I wanted it to pull as much away from securing sectors as possible. So I went really, really heavy with the space stations. And it was a theme throughout it. So it kind of makes it fun, especially, I mean, these are the kinds of things where you can't surprise people if you're going to go with these real heavy theme missions, you really have to give them a heads up on it.
Well, I kind of wanted to, like a lot of the objective missions, you find them on your side of the board and you can just run them off the back table edge. And,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be, oh, I found it, I'm running away. It's like, oh, I found it. Now I have to figure out how to keep a hold of it till I get done and get it across to where I need it to go.
It's good because then you're stuck between that point of, do I just sit in the backfield with it because I know for sure I can't get it to extraction point, or do I make the push? And that's kind of cool. And it's also tough too because you don't know at what point that opportunity is going to open itself up. So you don't want to sit in the too far back and then hose yourself to not be able to get there in time.
Well, and depending on what faction you're playing, you are more or less mobile, so you're going to kind of have to pre-plan your movement to get those.
Yeah. I mean, Scourge have a nice advantage in that with their speed.
Yeah,
but it does balance out a little bit because their armor's a lot worse. So
your armor's a lot worse.
My prediction for the tournament is that I kind of expect to see heavy light transports for this. Like heavy in quantity, not a new unit called heavy light transport.
A lot of light transports.
Yeah.
It's hard to call it fully because I think maybe you're going to end up with heavier infantry because it's all either intel or objectives. There's not a lot of, quadrant control.
Yeah.
You literally have Crucible in your list.
Well, yeah, but that's just a critical location in the center. There's no control this quarter of the board.
No, it's control this half of the board.
But I think that's going to increase the amount of AA that one has to kind of, protect the air and try and block the opponent from going across board.
Yeah, that's true as well.
So there's a lot of counterbalances to it. I mean, I think you are going to actually be forced to go kind of balance with it, weirdly.
We shall see. I'm very interested to see how people take advantage of their time leading up to the con and bring their list together. So, let's go ahead and move on over to Origins then. So, Derek, you can talk about
in between Adepticon and Origins, we're going to have a Toledo Day for Zone's fleet. So if you're in northern Ohio, southern Michigan, if you're within what you consider reasonable driving distance from Toledo, Ohio, come join us. April 13th, I posted it today. We've got a half dozen people already marked as going and a couple of maybes. So I'm hoping for a big turnout. Bringing demo armies and demo fleets. So if people want to learn to play, it's going to be that option. And maybe I'll actually get a full game in. Maybe I'll get a win that weekend.
Nope.
Probably not. But yeah, then in June we have Origins. I already have my mission pack designed for fleet. It's 3 custom missions. We've talked about this before. It's a 500-point round, a 1,000-point round, and a 2,000-point round. My big hope is that by doing a small, medium, and large game that we alleviate some of the time pressures of tournaments, and also it'll provide a little bit of more of a narrative structure to it. Plus, it'll be fun to see how someone takes 500 points and someone takes 2,000 points, and how significantly different those fleets look.
So. Now, quick question. Does the entirety of your 500-point list have to be in your 1,000-point list and so on?
No. So, like the 500-point mission is called Secure the Anchorage, and it has a diagonal. I can never remember the name of the planetary rings. Jeez. It has a diagonal planetary ring from one corner to the other, and there's 3 space stations inside. And it's an anchorage station that allows for the fleet to safely move through the planetary rings. So the idea of the first mission is whoever secures that is going to have the advantage for amassing their fleet for the invasion of this planet. So what's going to happen is if you win that, then you get to pull a command card from your deck, a specific command card from your deck. And don't ask me what it is because I don't have it in front of me now. I can't remember it. I wrote it a month or so ago. But that'll give you that card in your hand, regardless of your card totals, to use at any point as an advantage for owning the anchorage. And then the next mission is going to be about establishing a beachhead for your ground forces. And then finally, the third mission. And again, if you win that one, there's another card you get to draw. So if you win your first 2 missions, there'll actually be 2 cards in your hand at the start of mission 3, in addition to whatever you normally draw. Cool. So come round 3, it's actually going to be a direct deploy 2,000-point slugfest. It's going to be all about securing the space over the clusters. It's not so much about landing more troops, because the idea is that your forces are already on the ground, established in the last mission, fighting. You can reinforce those troops by dropping more stuff on the ground, but you have to secure the orbit as well as the ground if you want to score those points. And it's just going to be a slugfest to actually control the planet at that point. So I'm excited to run it. I think it's going to be fun. It'll be a little bit different way of playing the game. And I'm going to do the same thing with Zone.
It's a good dynamic, and I'm excited to see how it turns out, because it could certainly be a format that we could include in a tournament pack. At least an option for a format to include in a tournament pack. So I think going forward, I would like to include more optional things for tournament TOs to have in there. Well, and as silly as it sounds, it's kind of perfect timing when I see things like the Behemoth getting ready to release.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine a Behemoth fitting into a 1,000-point game very well.
No, probably not.
So it's actually going. It gives a legitimate reason to go back and say, let's play the game in an older way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I definitely in the future would like to see some variance in tournament points. Though, so this kind of gives you the best of both worlds. So you can play a smaller game and a larger game all in one tournament setting. This isn't obviously like the definitive tournament setup, because you'd obviously want that to be. Yeah.
No, I've run this will be the 3rd year now that I've run the tournaments for Origins, and I just kind of, last year especially, I did a 2-day drop fleet tournament, and that was just exhausting.
Yeah.
And you're trying to cram in that last mission in time for everyone to be able to get back to the booth before the vendor hall closes to use their prize support. And I was just like, you know what? There's got to be a better way where I can run an enjoyable event and we can play some fun games, but no one's heavily stressed about the time it's going to take to play them. So an hour for round 1, an hour and a half, 2 hours for round 2, and 3 hours for round 3. And, you actually going to have a lunch break in there. You'll have some time to get up and walk around between the sessions where you're not just pounding out games every round.
Right. And I like the way the dynamic is changing with these tournament settings, because before when Hawk was doing it, it was mostly the same throughout everything. And the way I'm trying to steer things going forward, and what you guys help immensely with, is that each convention that we're at brings something different for the games. So AdeptCon has to be the tournament. The convention, it just has to be. And we bring something a little fun in on Thursday, just so that people can fill out their whole weekend if they want to with their stuff. And then now you're bringing Origins into these new formats to bring something new. So when people show up to Origins, they know it's not going to be the same. It's going to be something cool and different. And then I think going forward with Gen Con, I'm slightly skewed on that this year because of lack of TOs.
Sorry, man.
I'd like to have that be mostly revolve around scenario fun events, like strictly non-competitive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although when we get to the Gen Con point here, I can kind of bring up what I've submitted.
So Gen Con.
So now we're there. I will point out also at Origins, we do have a Rumble Slam tournament there as well. Nothing for Carnivale. It was kind of a timing issue. We hadn't kind of fleshed out how we want events to run at conventions for Carnivale yet. It's kind of not really a tournament game, because a lot of the missions are narrative focused. But what I want to do is sort of carry over what Weird does with they every year at AdeptCon, they always have like a narrative thing where they do something new and cool that's not in the book, so they put in like a special mission or whatever, and you don't really know too far out in advance what it is. So I kind of want to go that route, more fun route in general, but also slightly competitive, because you're still going to be winners. So going into Gen Con, I've actually submitted something for Carnivale that we haven't fleshed out yet. So we've given a premise of what it's going to be.
And then by Gen Con, well before it, hopefully, we'll have something new and cool that's not necessarily in the book fleshed out for that. And that's actually going to be ran by Cameron, a.k.a. Donk.
Donk.
And then we put a Patrick's narrative event for Drop Fleet is going to be there, brought to Gen Con as well. So if you're looking for something to do that's not going to take all day and is fun, he's got a cool little narrative he's working out for AdeptCon.
So we better hope it's good because he's going to run it twice.
Multi-table collective team thing with a huge mission going on. It's going to be really, really cool. I'm really hoping that it turns out well for him. And then certainly by Gen Con, you can make any tweaks that needed to be made from AdeptCon. And that's what we did last year, actually, with Fox and Cam. They did their combined narrative campaign thing. And by Gen Con, they had it down and even cut some time off to play. So that was good. What else do we have there? Rumble Slam tournaments. And then for Zone, we're doing a second edition tournament, since hopefully the book will be out before then. This will be the first official printed time to actually get an official tournament in there. And I thought it would be good this year, even though I'm trying to go more thematic narrative for Gen Con. I wanted to showcase that rule set and let people play a tournament setting. And that will also bring on our 1,750 point new cap limit to the points value for each of the games.
What?
To accommodate the new beasties. So
Behemoths.
So that's what we have planned for Gen Con.
Awesome.
Hopefully people will sign up for those events.
Well,
Wait, did you say 1,750 for both games?
For Gen, for
Zone.
Yeah, Fleet's already going up to 1,500. And in fact, it's
forever separated by 250 points.
Yep. Convenient how that worked out, right?
Right? Well, that kind of moves us into final thoughts. Don, you got anything?
I kind of gave my final thoughts earlier on when I was talking about the delays and stuff like that, and I hope that people kind of just take a chill pill and ride the excitement train and the hype train going into this book and try to enjoy what's going to be coming out for the game, and a little less doom and gloom.
Yeah.
About what's going on and what happened in the past, I should say, because now we're fully into starting to reveal things. So hopefully that'll be cool. And, also take into consideration that not every release will be a unit. Could be a building, could be barricades, something that we will produce to make the games more fun. It's not just going to be, the game is sort of getting dangerously close to that unit bloat range,
Mm-hmm.
So
guess we're going to need some new factions then. Huh?
Yeah, I guess we could use a new faction, huh?
Well, Jordan, you got any final thoughts?
Do I ever?
No, but I ask, and I think maybe someday this could be the day that Jordan had something he wanted to add.
No,
All
not
right.
today. Not unless you have a magical fix for my basement, which, according to the plumber, I have nothing wrong on my property. So it's down to the township for, back flooding my house every time I get more than an inch of rain. So
Well,
don't know what to
I
do
think you're
there.
going to have to learn how to take more than an inch, buddy.
Wow.
Oh,
Penis jokes right at the end.
we have fun.
So, when I wrote this episode guide, I was hot. I had a couple of events we had to cross off in here. Apparently, I just need to put it down on paper to not be as pissy about it. But, I don't think it matters what game community you go into. You're gonna find the haters or the grognards that just want to bitch, and I try to call them out. I've been told I dump gas on those fires, but I just, when it's an obvious falsehood, I feel obligated to say, no, that's wrong. But I guess at the end of the day, that's not important. What I can say is that I'm intimately familiar with the Ohio community. I'm pretty familiar with the Michigan community. And both of those communities seem like they're really strong. And I can speak very much for the Ohio community and knowing that we've got a lot of active players and we've been adding players. And I'm hoping with the release of version 2 that some of the lurkers that are still in that community get a little more active and show up for a few more games. And that, Jordan down in Southern Ohio, me up in Central and Northern Ohio, I'm thinking that maybe we can really get this community thriving with the second edition release. And I'm personally excited about all the hype. And, I know there's a ton of stuff coming, and the Behemoths model is beautiful, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that changes the game. And even though I apparently can't win a game of Drop Zone anymore, I still enjoy the game. So I guess if people are going to be angry and complain, there's just nothing we can do about it other than smile and nod and mock them and ridicule them relentlessly.
Also, one thing that I think that don't put more weight on your shoulders than you need to when you're doing these community things. Like, it doesn't need to be every week. It could be once a month. And people will
try to do once a month.
Yeah, exactly. People will show up once a month. In fact, if anything, if you overdo it, you get in the reverse of that, and people get burned down on it and kind of move on. But if you're setting it up once a month, if that's what works for your community, more if people want to play more often or whatever, then somebody has to take that jump, that leap to set up that event once a month and get the people to come out. And we do that here in Michigan. We have a guy, David Reynolds, who does it locally for us. He's a fleet player, not a zone player. Although I think with second edition, he'll get in the zone. And he kind of handles our once a month meetup. And it works.
I always feel bad. I get invited to it, but I'm always like, I can't go.
Yeah. And it works. You give people enough time, a couple of weeks notice, maybe 3 weeks notice. He always sets these up at the beginning of the month or even the prior month. Plenty of notice, gives people time, even if you only get 4 showing up 1 month. Sometimes people are busy. Don't let it discourage you.
Well, we're coming up on an hour and 20 minutes. So let me just say, I'll wrap this up with the, if you haven't subscribed already and you're a regular listener, please do subscribe. Review us on whatever media it is that you're listening to us on, whether that be iTunes or Android or actually going to the Spreaker page and listening to us there. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, review us, share us. Even though we just learned that Command Value 1 has 0 sphere of influence, we still like to try to build one. That's an actual game joke. We have a little bit of a sphere of influence, but
I was going to say, I thought you had a 6-inch range with the CV1,
right? No.
Is it non-existent or is it 0?
DEFCON players get a little bit of a bonus because a flaw was pointed out to me in that there's no restrictions on how many units can have command value. And so if you give a sphere of influence to a command value 1, you can make all of your units command value 1. So,
oopsie daisy.
Yeah. So that's a little tweak that has to be made. Jordan, you want to put an errata out there right now, letting people know at AdeptCon they can't do that?
You think someone's going to exploit that?
Well, I've just said it. Somebody's going to do it.
We know someone's going to exploit it.
So has that been exploitable all along and no one's just ever done it?
Well, there's never been a sphere of influence for a command value 1.
Oh.
And so I thought it'd be nice to put like a little bit of a sphere of influence for a command value 1.
Uh-huh.
But either I have to remove that or I have to put a restriction to how many units can take advantage of command value 1.
I think you just restrict it to say, a maximum of 2 commanders per army.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. And then also, just for our listeners know that we will be doing a quick turnaround for our next episode, because obviously we want to get straight into it after post-DEFCON next week. So the following week, so hopefully 2 weeks from today-ish,
we'll be talking about all the fun stuff that happened at AdeptCon.
Hopefully. All right, guys, we got anything else?
I think that's it.
Jordan?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, guys. Well, we should probably wrap it up here and call it a night.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Night, gentlemen.